What's going on, everybody? It is MidwestReefer, and boy, has it been hard to make this video. I record on my phone at the moment, and I've been getting calls all day. I don't think I'm that popular. I think I'm just unlucky today. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I didn't hear a lot about when setting up my tank, but I actually ended up doing, and that is skip cycling. That is right, there is a way to skip the nitrogen cycle. Now, this isn't like a get rich scheme type infomercial. This is just fact. I end up skip cycling my tank without really even knowing it, I guess. But definitely found out. So essentially, the reason why we cycle our tanks is to get the beneficial bacteria in the water to be able to eat the ammonia and the nitrate and leave nitrates that we get out with water changes or other ways as well. Larger tanks have other ways of getting rid of the nitrates. Smaller tanks, we normally just do the water changes. Anyway, that's the whole reason why we let the tank sit for a month. Now, most beginning reefers, especially if you're new to keeping fish in general or keeping corals or whether it be freshwater, saltwater, want to keep the cost down. So most people are going to get dry rock and dry sand. Now, it's very affordable and it gives you control over the hitchhikers in your tank. Since everything's dry, there's nothing living on it. There should be nothing in your tank unless you introduce that by other means. Like I said, that's going to save you a lot of money as well. However, we need to introduce ammonia to the tank in order to get the nitrogen cycle to start, which all you guys know how the nitrogen cycle works. And if not, definitely check out some YouTubers. They definitely have great videos on that. I am not your guy for that. Not today. The other way of doing it is introducing live rock or live sand. Now, there's two different types of live rock. There's the live rock directly from the ocean, which is probably guaranteed to have some unwanted hitchhikers on there. And then there's the cured live rock. Now, cured isn't necessarily an industry standard. And I guess what I mean by that is cured can mean a lot of different things depending on who you get it from. So you definitely want to ask your local fish store or whatever reputable online seller you're getting it from is what do they mean by cured? Now, in my case, my local fish store does a 3-stage filtration before they even release the rock to be sold to the public. So essentially, it goes through the whole cycling process in a separate tank with the die-off and the seeding of the bacteria. That way, when it arrives to your home, it is ready to rock and roll. So that's what my local fish store labels cured as. Now, cost. This is $8.99 a pound here. In Nebraska, it's $8.99 a pound for their premium rock, and they call their premium rock is with like their purple coralline algae dye on it. Essentially, this rock is artificial rock that's casted in actual reef rock. So you'll see like shell moldings and stuff in there, and then they go ahead and dye it, and then they let that cycle. So that's what my rock is. So it's actually artificial pre-cured live rock. And I'm not sure why my camera is making these spots look brown. They're actually white, but then again, I'm recording on a crappy phone. So pre-cured live rock, and I also went Carib Sea Hawaiian black sand. Now, I didn't get the live rock or the live sand necessarily to skip cycle my tank. I really like the look of this rock, and I really like the look of the sand. So I bought them. It just so happened that they were both live. And money wasn't really an option for me with this tank, so that didn't really deter me, and I went ahead and got this stuff. Now, since the rock is already seeded with all the beneficial bacteria on there, there's really no reason to introduce ammonia. In fact, you want to do the opposite. You want to keep ammonia out of the tank with this, because you don't want to harm any of the living inhabitants on the rock or the bacteria. There's already living stuff on the rock. Therefore, we definitely don't want to introduce like pure ammonia or anything to the tank when we're using live products. We do the exact opposite as if what you would do with dry products, if that makes sense. If not, definitely check it out. There's plenty of forums and stuff out there that tell you about it, but essentially we do the opposite, keep ammonia out the tank. Now, theoretically, sorry guys, when you know I dropped my damn camera again. Now, what I was saying is theoretically you could throw fish in here right away. Now, I wouldn't probably throw a lot of fish in here, but you could. Now, I have seen some people do quick setups when they throw a fish right away after introducing live rock, live sand, and theoretically you could. I did not though. However, I still waited 3 weeks after having my tank up just so I can go over my checklist, make sure all my equipment was running. I had the aquascape how I wanted, and there was no unwanted hitchhikers on my rock. There was 2 starfish on my rock and 2 bristleworms. 1 bristleworm is gone now, and both starfish are gone. Haven't seen a single hitchhiker since then, other than what I put in the tank, which would be my fish, my corals, and my hermit crabs. Hermit crabs are in there week 2. Did completely fine. I started with 4. I have 8 now, and they're still rocking. So people say, well, doesn't the bacteria need to build? Well, the bacteria is not going to necessarily build any larger than what's already on the rock. It doesn't die during transport unless it's been sitting on the water for weeks or, like a ridiculous amount of time. The only way you can really kill that bacteria is through extreme measures, which is going to be like poisoning or extreme heat. The bacteria doesn't die that easily. So I transported mine home in the bucket, and my fish store is probably about 3 miles down the street. So I actually had it pretty easy. Now, the bacteria colonies aren't going to grow any larger unless you introduce a bioload or something for them to eat. So letting my tank sit for a month simply to try to grow the bacteria colony wasn't really going to do me any good. I let mine sit again, like I said, so I can go over the rest of the tank. So that's how, if you ever wondered like how when you go to Reef Palooza or a Reef Stock or a big fish convention, the vendors don't come in 3-4 weeks ahead of time and set up the tanks, let them cycle. That's just ridiculous. Other people are using that hall or that auditorium. So they just don't do that. What they do is they bring in pre-cured stuff, whether it be rock, whether it be substrate, whether it be filters, some type of media that has the bacteria on it that's already going to instantly seed the tank. If they add the water, they add the fish, and they're good to go. I've heard of zoos and aquariums doing this as well. And again, there's a lot of research online about it. And I've also talked to some people that's done it, that's worked on some zoos and museums. We have one of the greatest zoos over here in Omaha, Nebraska, which is Henry Dorley Zoo. And like I said, I have 2 local fish stores here. So I actually went and talked to some people at the zoo, talked to some people at the fish stores, and this is kind of how I got my information. I didn't just read it off of forums. Now, with that being said, I am not an advocate of trying to beat or skip the nitrogen cycle. This is just simple fact. Now, there's other product out there. There's Seed and there's Dr. Tim's One and Only. Now, I do have 2 Seed Chem products here. I have Seed and I have Prime. Now, I only add the Seed and the Prime when I'm doing my water changes, and I add it to the new water, but I did not use the Seed and Prime initially with the tank. I didn't want any ammonia or anything else in the tank, so I didn't add any food, any prime or anything like that. And my tank's been at about 0 levels since day one. So corals and everything are doing completely fine. And again, I will have to get a better camera sometime in the future. But as you can see, Duncan's doing awesome. Both frog spawns are looking awesome. And yeah, that's how I set up my tank. So essentially by introducing the bacteria already on the material, you are skipping the nitrogen cycle. Now definitely do more research before you try this. But it worked out for me. Didn't really look at it that way. I almost started to cycle the tank like you would with dry product, which would have actually prolonged my cycle. So I almost added ammonia or add fish food in here, and that would have really just prolonged the cycle. But always do your research, always double check. You can always add more, just like seasoning, right? You can always add more, but if you put too much in, you pretty much ruin the food. Same thing with the tank. But if you have any other questions, definitely leave them down in the comments below. And until next time, see you later.
Let's go. Snapbacks and tattoos, nice whips, fly chicks, all that, cause cash rules. Snapbacks and tattoos, nice whips, fly chicks.